Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a cute little Santa hat charm that you can add a letter of the alphabet to. So I have a J here and a C here, and I will be adding a grid pattern at the end of the tutorial that will show you how to make every letter of the alphabet. You can do this on the Alpha Loom or the Rainbow Loom. This one was made on the Alpha Loom with Alpha Loom bands, so you can see it's a little bit smaller. And this one was made on the Rainbow Loom with the regular size bands. So in the tutorial today, I'm going to be showing you this one. So I think it would be a great personalized little gift or package topper for this holiday season. You can make this either on the Alpha Loom or the Rainbow Loom, and I do prefer to make mine on the Alpha Loom because the pins are closer together, and plus you have the Alpha comb, which has the 7 hooks, so you can do it a lot faster. But I do receive a lot of comments from people asking me to show things on the Rainbow Loom because they don't have an Alpha Loom, and even though you can use both, sometimes it's nice to have a tutorial to follow along with that is actually on the Rainbow Loom. So for that reason, I'm going to be using the Rainbow Loom, and I'll be using full-size Rainbow Loom bands. Other than your loom, you're going to need a hook of some sort. So I'm using the Rainbow Loom metal hook. And as far as my band counts, I'm using 43 red for the background, 7 green for the letter, and then 17 white. You're also going to need 9 bands that are going to be used for the center, and they're just going to hold the rows together. So I'll be using clear, and I usually do prefer to use clear, but you can also use whatever your main background color is. And as a matter of fact, in retrospect, after making this on the Rainbow Loom, I kind of think that I would prefer to use my background color because there's just a little bit more of a gap in between the spaces, and I will show you how you can close that off at the end. But when you do that, it does make the edges a little more visible. Therefore, if you had the color of your background, it would blend in even more. As far as your loom setup, you want to have 2 rows of pins that are straight in line with one another, and we're only going to be using 2, so I've removed the 3rd row. So you can leave it on or take it off, it's really up to you. And then I've removed the blue base plate from the center, so our creation has room to grow down. And I'm going to be having the loom in a horizontal position, just because I think it'll be easier to follow along with that way. And I'm going to place a grid pattern in the upper left-hand corner, and then I will highlight each row as we're working on it. We're going to begin at the bottom of the hat, so I have 7 white bands, and since we're working with full-size bands, we need to double these. If you have Alpha Loom bands, you do not need to double. So there's a couple ways you can do it. One way I will show you is to do it on your hook. So just put it on, twist, put it back on, you'll have your 2 loops, and then it's going to stretch across. So since this is the first row, we do need to twist this since it's the bottom. So it's going to come across, but it's also going to make a figure 8. The other way that you can put the bands on is you can just put it on the pin, twist, and then just loop it back on with your fingers, and then just take your hook, stretch it across, and then you will need to twist. So it's up to you whichever way you feel is the easiest. I kind of like doing it just on the pins themselves. So let me just go ahead and put these all on first. I think this will be the quickest here. And now that I've done that, I'm going to just grab the both loops with my hook, stretch across, and make that figure 8. So it's a little bit harder to deal with when you have the doubled bands, because you have to make sure you're getting both loops to go over each pin. And then you're going to need to push everything down. And if you were using the Alpha Loom, you could use the back of the Alpha comb. But since we're doing this on the Rainbow Loom, what I recommend is getting like an old store card or credit card and just using that to push everything down to the bottom. Now, in between every row, we're going to have to put a row of clear bands, or you could use whatever color you're working on in that row, but I usually like to use the clear. And it's going to stretch across all the pins we're working on just to hold the rows together. So on the Rainbow Loom, it is definitely a longer stretch. It's got to go from here all the way over. So I'm just going to do this on the bottom row. You can do it on the top or bottom, but I just like to pick one side and stay consistent. In the next row we have all red. So again, we're going to have to double everything first. And then this time we don't have to make any figure eights, they're just going to stretch straight across. Again, just make sure you're getting both loops on. And then we want the clear band to come over into the center. And then we want the bottom two bands, so this time it's all the white ones, to come off and into the middle. Oops, only got one that time. And then again, you're going to push everything down. Now this next part is not actually a row. I'm going to add some white loops just to make a little bit of frill at the bottom of the hat. So again, I'm going to double each band. And then I'm going to reach down through, grab the two red, pull it off of the pin, slip these white bands off, and then replace the red. So that's just going to leave those two loops hanging just for a little bit of extra decoration. And you can see sometimes the bands want to jump back up. So you might have to use your finger. That one's laying down nicely. But sometimes they want to come untwisted and they want to go back up. So just use your other fingers to push them down. See, that one jumped up. Sometimes they don't want to go back on very easily either. And I'll push all of that down. So as I said, that was not actually a row. Now I'm putting on my next clear band, and if you wanted to, you could stretch this out just a little bit. I wouldn't pull it real hard, but stretch it out a little bit just to give yourself an easier time to stretch it on the pin since it's such a long stretch. And in the third row, we're going to start our letter pattern. So I have two green bands. That's going to be the bottom of my C. And of course you can use any color that you like. You can do any background color or any letter color. Just decided to stick with the traditional Christmas colors, but you can use anything you like. And then just stretch these straight across. I'm going to remove the clear and then all of the bottom bands. So it's going to be 2 coming off, and then 2 are going to remain on your pins. I'll add my next clear. In row 4, we're doing the next layer of our letter. So whatever letter you're making, just follow that pattern. And this is actually our last layer that's going to be 7 pins. And then we're going to narrow this down to 5 after this. So my clear comes over, and then all the rest from the bottom. And now before I add my clear band, what I'm going to do is take the bands on the ends and move them in. So I'll start over here on the right. I'm just moving this over. And then the bottom 2 will come over the top. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So we're just moving in, and then bottom 2 come over. Now we have to add our clear band, and herein lies a little bit of a problem. If I just stretch it over the 5 pins, it's going to stick out the ends. I'll show you an example. You can see up here how the clear bands sort of stick out the edges on these 2 layers. So if I try and double this and stretch it across 5 pins on the Rainbow Loom, it's going to be just way too tight. You can do it on an Alpha Loom, but on the Rainbow Loom it's really tough. So what I'm going to suggest that we do is we stretch it over the 5 pins, and then what we're going to do is take your hook and wrap it around the end pin 1 additional time, and the same thing for the other side here. Take your end pin and wrap that around 1 additional time. So that's just going to give us a little bit of extra tightness on the edges. So now we're on to row 5, and we have our rows reduced down to 5 pins. So I'm stretching this across, and it's a little bit tough because we have those clear bands that we wrapped around an extra time. My hook was actually wanting to kind of get caught on those. So just make sure that you're only grabbing the top 2. And then it's going to be a little bit tricky to get off here, so just take your time. I'm actually going to loop over the extra part, and then the band. And here's the main part, and then we have this extra little part. It's going to come over. And now we have the rest to come off here. Pushing down. And once again with the clear, we're going to do that same thing. So it's going over the 5 pins, But then I'm going to wrap this around an additional time. Do that on either side. And now we have row 6. And again, just be careful when you're stretching these across that you're not grabbing the clear bands. And then I'm going to take these off in sections here. You could grab them both at once. I'm just trying to be extra careful. Now I have another loop here. And then the bottoms. And my next clear. So again, I'm going to give it an extra loop around. And now row 7 is actually the last row of our letter. So it doesn't matter what letter you're making, they're all 5 rows long and 3 rows wide. So we have the clear, let's get that all the way over, and now the bottoms. And we have our clear band. It's going to be the same way again. So just wrap that around. This next row is all red. And this is going to be our last row of 5. And after this, we'll narrow it down to 3 rows. So we're kind of getting down towards the end here, not too much longer. So clear plus the extra. And now we're going to narrow this, as I said. So I'll start here on the right. And the bottom 2 come off. Repeat that for the left. And now with our next clear band, we are going to stretch this across the 3 pins with a doubled band. So I'm going to just double this on one pin, and then I'll use my hook to stretch it across the other 2. In row 9 we have our 3 red, I have my next clear, and this is going to be doubled and stretched across all 3 pins. And then in row 10, it's another 3 red, in row 11, I'm just going to add the bands. I'm not going to add the clear band. So I have my 3 red, and this is going to be our last row of 3. We're going to have a reduction after this. So the end ones move in. So I started on the left that time. It doesn't really matter. I was starting on the right other times, but it doesn't really make a difference. So you're going to have 6 bands on each pin, and you want the bottom 2 to come over. So you're going to be left with 4 bands. I'm going to push this down. And then I'm going to do a white band. So I'm pulling all 4 of the bottom reds over. And then I'm going to take 2 white, and I'm going to just double these on the bottom row. And just like we did at the bottom of the hat, I'm going to reach down through these top 4. The bottom 2 are going to come off. Slide the rest off. You can hold those down and put those 2 back on. And now finally I have a clear band. I'm going to use this for my little hang band. Bring the bottom 2 over. I'm going to bring the one side over to the other. Bottom comes over the top, and pull that nice and tight to make a slip knot. Now I can take this off the loom, and here's how it looks. So you can see a little bit of the clear in between, and you can just push this together as best as you can. And if you really find that you don't like this gap, the only alternative is to tighten the edges. So if you look at all of the edges here where the clear is, what you can do is you can take your hook, pick up a clear, go to the next one up, pick up that clear, and just pull one through the other. And then just keep working your way up, grabbing a clear band. And sometimes they're really tough to get a hold of. But just snag a clear, or sometimes you're going to have 2 clear on the ones that we tightened. So if you just work your way up like that, that's going to help to tighten those center bands. You just work your way up one side, and then you can do the same thing for the other side, and then you would just have to tie those off at the top. So let me go ahead and do that off camera, and then I will show you what to do. So I've linked all these clear bands up the one side. I put a clip on it, and now I linked up all the clear bands on the other side. So what I'm going to do is take my hook and push through, and now I can grab the bands that are on the clip. So now I have them both on here, and then I'll take a white band and then I just pull through everything. And then I'm going to go through the top white band and pull through both. And then what you can do is just get this in with the other loops. So you can just slide it on like that, and then I would pull it down towards the bottom, and then it's just going to blend in with all the others. So you will see the clear a little bit more visibly if you do that, but you can see by doing that how much it's tightened up the center. So it's up to you if you want to leave it the way it was when it first came off the loom, or you want to tighten it up here a bit, but I think either way it turns out really nice. I hope that everyone loves their new little alphabet Santa hats. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook, post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, so that way you can get notified when I have new tutorials available. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to post comments and pictures there too, and subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!